Hi, I'm Caitlin Kaiser, a student volunteer at the NWS office in Atlanta / Peachtree City. This is the weekly weather briefing for the week starting Thursday, September 7th through next Thursday. So starting with some highlights, we're going to see severe storms across central Georgia this afternoon as a frontal boundary moves in. We'll also see another frontal boundary moving in next week, which will bring increased rain chances as well as some cooler temperatures from the north. And finally, we're going to touch on the trough over the eastern U.S. It's expected to turn Hurricane Lee northward midweek. So starting with some current conditions, we have a cold front stationed over the Tennessee Valley, which we're expecting to push southward throughout the day. Storms are expected to pop up across central Georgia along this frontal boundary as it moves into the area. Looking at our water vapor imagery, you can really see that low pressure system up across Kentucky and Tennessee moving into the area, as well as the pretty defined boundary. We're expecting increased cloud coverage to move in along this cold front. Getting into the severe outlook for today, we do have a marginal risk from the SPC. The primary hazards will be lightning, damaging winds, small hail, and locally heavy rain across much of central Georgia. But outside of this marginal risk, you can still see isolated storms where lightning is the primary hazard. Now looking at the excessive rainfall outlook, we don't have one for today as we're expecting very limited rainfall across central Georgia. You can see some totals between 0 and 0.1, even reaching 0.2 inches in far eastern Georgia, but not much precipitation expected today. Now moving on to our max temperature and our precip chances across the state, you can see we're topping out in the low to mid 90s across much of Georgia, and our rain percentages around 40% for much of the state, so we're still looking at some warm weather and a fair chance for precipitation. Moving forward a little bit in our forecast, for tomorrow we're expecting that cold front to be stationed more across North Georgia, bringing the potential for isolated storms across the south and central portions of the state. Moving into Friday night, we'll see these scattered storms continue through the evening, but it will begin to move out later in the night, so really we're expecting more storms tonight than we are tomorrow. Finally, moving ahead to Saturday, you'll see that cold front continue to push southward, so we're going to dry up a bit in western Georgia, but the rain will persist for parts of eastern Georgia where we will see more rainfall. Finally, Sunday, dry conditions are expected for most of the state as this cold front exits. However, there is still a chance for rainfall in far southern and eastern portions of the central Georgia region. Another look at our rain chances through the weekend, so you can see similar to what we saw on the previous slides. Friday, it's more in the southern parts of central Georgia. Saturday is a bit more widespread, but still the highest chances are focused in the east. And Sunday, we do see that bit of a dry up on the western portions of the state. Cooler temperatures are ahead, so this is kind of the big exciting news for next week. We see that high pressure system start to push in and bring another strong cold front. So we will see some rain and potential storms next week, midweek, but we'll also see cooler temperatures, which is exciting for a place like Georgia coming out of a very hot summer. Here's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the CPC, as well as the 8 to 14 day. As you can see, we are starting to see those below average temperatures, which correlates with what we were talking about on the previous slide. So for the next week to 2 weeks, we will start to see those at average and below temperatures for much of Georgia. Here you can see temperatures again are on the downtrend through the week. You can see highs in the low to mid 80s and lows actually getting down to the high 60s for the next week or so. Another breakdown of the temperature forecast, you can see it's kind of breaking it down for the major cities across north and central Georgia. Some topping out with max temperatures in the 90s, but really we're getting more into the mid to high 80s, which brings a little bit of relief from these hot temperatures. Finally, looking at our precipitation accum for the next 7 days, nothing too crazy. We have small pockets of up to 2 inches possible in far eastern counties, but for the most part we're looking at 1 to 1.25 for east central Georgia and only 0.1 to 0.5 inches for the rest of the north and central parts of Georgia. Finally, just to touch on Hurricane Lee, right now there are no impacts expected for Georgia. As you can see in the right, there's expected to be a trough in the eastern part, so it's going to shift the storm to the north, which you can't quite see on the NHC track yet, just because it only goes out 5 days, but once it starts to go out further, you will see that curve in the track, which will kind of avoid our forecast area. So just to return to the highlights, we will see severe storms possible in central Georgia this afternoon as this frontal boundary moves in. Next week we're expecting another frontal boundary that will bring increased rain chances as well as cooler temperatures, bring some relief for the Georgia counties. And finally, just that trough setting up over the eastern U.S., which is expected to turn Hurricane Lee northward, and we are expecting no impacts at this time for Georgia. Finally, this is just where you can contact us if you have any questions. Feel free to call us, chat us on Slack, and check out our social media. But otherwise, have a good rest of your day.